Hey guys, welcome back to the course. So for the last couple lectures, we've been discussing landing pages. Well, so far we know what they're used for, and well, we just checked out a bunch of really good examples in the immediately previous lecture. Now in this one, I'd like to share some of the important do's and don'ts for landing pages. Things you should always do or include, and then things you should really always avoid because they will secretly kill whatever page you're making. Now let's start with 5 things you should always do on a landing page. Now my first tip is to use your headline to highlight the value of your offer. Sounds a little obvious, let me repackage that for you. Use your headline to immediately tell them what they're gonna get from the actual magnet that you're offering. If you delay telling them what the value is to something else, a subtitle or a description, you'll get a lot of people who just bounce. The first thing people read is the headline, and a lot of them will only read the headline. So convince your visitors whatever you're selling here is worth it with a clear statement of value. What will you do for them if they, say, complete the form? What download will they get, and why is the thing you're giving them so special? Or what knowledge will they get from signing up for this event that you're promoting? People need to know what's in it for them as soon as possible, so use the headline to make it as clear as possible. For example, Buffer offers a 25-day email course. It's called the 25 Expert Social Media Growth Strategies. And they use a headline and a landing page that is very short and sweet. Now the title is clear, the tone of the message is friendly, and the form is super short. It's a solid landing page. Look at that headline. Now here's another landing page tip. Provide all of the details needed to make a decision. As good as your headline might be, don't rely on that to do all the convincing for you. If you're providing something to download, include a description of the piece with specifics on what's included. Is there a helpful checklist, a set of steps to accomplish something, or a template they could use to create something? Make the value obvious. Now notice I'm not giving you a word count or limit here. When I say provide all the details, certain pieces like ebooks or email courses might require a lot to convince people, so give them as much as you can. Here's the thing, if you give them a lot of stuff, it's not going to deter anyone. People will read until they are satisfied, and then they'll sign up. So the more information you give, the longer you can continue to convince some of the holdouts. Founder Magazine and Founder.com, it's like founder without an E. Well, they offer an ebook on how to get your first 10,000 Instagram followers by breaking down all the info you'll get in the book into easy to read bullets. They'll even tell you they tried these tips themselves and it worked better than expected. This is a pretty decent example of explaining as much as you can about why you should do this. Now, on the other hand, if you want people to register for, let's say, a webinar, well, they'll need to know all the basics, as well as like the date and the time, how long it's gonna last, how they can attend, just from a technological standpoint, and what it's going to be all about, also who's in it. Availability is another consideration here, so be sure to include the webinar details as well. All right, here's my third tip for things you absolutely need to do. Make your call to action obvious and pretty much unavoidable. If you guys came from my MVP course, you might remember when we talked about BFBs, and that stands for big effing button. It basically means that your call to action should be large. I mean, when you look at the page, it should be one of the most obvious things on it. The Google has some like standard for their buttons where if you stand 6 feet away from the screen and you look at it, if you can still see the button, you're good. If you can't, it's not big enough. So once you've convinced your visitor with your dynamite headline and convincing copy, what do you want to do on your landing page? Do you want them to download a white paper, register for a webinar, whatever that action is? There should be a very clear and eye-catching call to action, or CTA I sometimes call it. And that should allow the page visitors to do that thing. Now, is there any mystery where the call to action on this page is? Okay, maybe it's boring or obnoxious, but its spirit is in the right place. Tell people exactly where to click and what will happen so there's no doubt about what you want them to do. All right, now here's tip number 4 on the landing page to-dos. Thank the user with a friendly confirmation. Now, once the visitor completes the landing page form, try to show a confirmation message so they know it actually worked, and then provide immediate details on what happens next. Download your ebook here, or you could get an email with webinar details within the next few minutes, and then obviously thank them for trusting you with their personal info. Take the opportunity to provide helpful links to other things they could download or more information on a related topic. Try not to go too crazy with that because you might actually end up distracting them from consuming the thing you gave them. Here's the confirmation page for an email course from Enchanting Marketing. You pretty much know that an email will be on the way to get you started because the confirmation is basically a thank you letter. And it's a decently nice personal touch. And here's tip number 5, and it's something a lot of businesses surprisingly forget about. That is, make sure your landing page continues to work in the future. Now, stay with me, I know that sounds a little obvious, but it's especially important if your landing page is a webinar that you make sure that it works going forward. After that event happens, well, you should use that landing page to provide like a recording of the webinar. You could even use the same lead form to give visitors access to a public version of it. Then you add a link to a page with an upcoming webinar so they can attend a live one if you want. If you just take the landing page down, but there are links to it from somewhere else, well, visitors might arrive on a broken page and well, you lose a chance of getting a lead. In fact, a lot of marketers, what they do is, and this is really shitty, but it's what they do for webinars, is they'll record a webinar and they act like it's live, but it's not. It's actually a pre-recorded one. So then anytime someone comes and they sign up for it, it already has a script that just keeps pushing the date into the future. They get an email sequence, then they watch the live webinar. They ask questions, but oh man, they never seem to be able to get their question in. Yeah, I guess that's one way of doing it. For example, here's a webinar page on physical education that took place sometime in 2016. Now, Shape America added text to let visitors know a recording was now available free for members or for purchase below. If your landing page is for a downloadable ebook, white paper, or an email course, and you decide to discontinue access, use some kind of redirect to get people on another page that can keep them interested in whatever else you have to offer. So those are the 5 pretty important tips that I think you should pay attention to for landing pages. So just to recap, use your headline to highlight the value of your offer, make sure that it's in the first sentence. 2, provide all the details necessary to make a decision. Don't leave anything out. There's really nothing that can go wrong by giving more information. 3, make their call to action, your CTA, as obvious and unavoidable as possible. Number 4, make sure that you thank the user with a friendly confirmation. Again, they trusted you with their information. And then 5, make sure that it continues to work in the future, and then you have a plan for what happens after, let's say, your webinar runs or your ebook is now out of date. So following these tips should ensure your landing page is at least informative and effective now and hopefully in the future. Now, on the flip side, there are plenty of things marketers and designers do to make their landing pages less than ideal and frankly just screw it up. So here are 5 things, let's go over quickly, to avoid with your own landing pages. First of all, don't force people to think too much. People landed on your landing page for a reason. They want what was promised to them in an ad they clicked or a link in an email they got. So they already have expectations for what they should find on the page. Don't confuse them with a different headline or page copy that makes them hesitate about giving you their info. For example, if you search for landing page guide, an ad for a Marketo ebook shows up. Marketo landing page guide, learn from the industry best practices. Now this clearly sounds perfect, so when you click through, you naturally arrive at a page called The Definitive Guide to Digital Advertising. What the hell? Now a quick scan of the description shows no mention of landing pages whatsoever. Did I just hallucinate? Did Marketo just promise me a guide for designing landing pages and then take me to a completely different landing page? What's going on? So the lesson here is make sure your headline in your ad matches the one on your landing page. In fact, try to make them as close as possible. The same lesson goes for any links, images, or other elements you use to direct people to your landing page. There should be no confusion whatsoever when they arrive. Otherwise, you interrupt your own momentum and make the visitor doubt pretty much everything they're doing. All right, the next thing to avoid on landing pages is don't ask for more than what you need in terms of the form. Gathering leads is an important process for your business, but you don't need 50 fields of information about a lead for it to be a good one. You especially don't need to ask for too much information about a person the first time you meet them on a landing page. If a friend introduces you to someone, you don't immediately ask them for their address, phone number, and blood type. Understand that landing pages can be and should be considered one of the many potential times you can connect with someone. So if all you get from a person in exchange for an ebook is their name and email address, well, consider that a win. Then build upon that first interaction. In the future, if you need it, you can get more information. To get a collection of white papers on the future of battery technology from Intertech, you're required to enter your physical mailing address. And I wonder how many junk mailings Intertech sends out to 123 Fake Street in Yemen because, well, forms like this. What's the point? Again, if you want to do more with a lead, well then keep talking to them and offering them value. If your work is truly worth something, they'll be happy to give you more data or more information. So be conscious of what information you need and just keep in mind you can get more from them later. Business to business companies, you can ask for a little bit more upfront because you don't need as many leads. But if you're a consumer company, why are you asking them their age or their mailing address or their high school mascot. It just doesn't make sense. So don't ask for too much info, and while you're at it, here's another tip. Don't make the landing page experience overly complex. Now, first, there's a difference between long and complex. You might need a long page packed with a lot of info. That kind of goes to tip number 3, but if it's presented in a simple way, it can still be very effective. When I talk about a page being too complex, I mean don't annoy them with extra steps. Your landing page should be where people land to get what they want. It shouldn't be a stop and a series of hoops you have them jump through. Engineering and Technology magazine has a white paper called A Drone's Life, Airborne Battery Management. Okay, fair enough. I'll just click the download your free white paper here button, and now I'm in another landing page. God damn it. Same description, although the bullets are slightly different. And now there's a form, a long one, and the cover of the white paper says, Drones 2017, not A Drone's Life. I don't know if I'm in the right place. Now, all the details need to be consistent in each step your visitors have to go through, but at the very least in this case, Engineering and Technology magazine should combine these 2 pages into one, save us that extra unnecessary click, and it will eliminate a bunch of confusion and dramatically up their conversion rate. All right, here's another thing to avoid on landing pages. Don't rely on a block of text to sell your lead magnet. Landing pages are perfect opportunities to use the available space on the page to spell out all the benefits for your visitor. If you cram all the info into a block of text, you're not really making things easy to digest. If you're promoting an ebook or white paper, show a picture of the cover. If you've got details to share, well then break them out into bullet points or a very loose outline. Show a few pictures of your messages from your email course or pictures of the speakers in your webinar. Don't trap yourself within a landing page template thinking you can only put text in one spot. Think outside the template. For example, Leadpages promotes their weekly webinar with all the details and highlights written out, but also includes a video preview as well. It's a great selling point because videos are way more fun to watch than text is to read. Plus, it's short and engaging. I personally like it. And now, here's one more thing to avoid on landing pages. Don't distract your visitors with competing call to actions. When you design a landing page for your lead magnet, make sure the page has a clear focus and one, yes, that is one, call to action. Check out this landing page from Training Magazine, Training Mag. The goal of this page is to get people to sign up for a webinar on how to manage training costs. However, Training Mag has loaded up the page with so many different calls to action, you don't actually know where to look. Now, above the details for this webinar is an ad for another webinar. Over on the right is a big what would you like to do menu, but none of the choices are to actually register for the webinar, which is the reason why I came here. The main registration button is pretty boring. It's gray and it's in the middle of everything. Now, Training Mag should remove as much of this noise as possible, including that stupid banner ad at the top and perhaps even those buttons on the right. As for the call to action, as you might remember from the first to-do item, make your call to action unavoidable and obvious. The main call to action on this page should be a bright color, either blue, orange, or green, or whatever. If you guys want to argue about the best colors for buttons, go ahead. I'm going to step out of this. The point is, gray is way too easy to miss. All right, guys, so let's recap the landing page no-nos one more time. Number 1, don't force people to think too much. Number 2, don't ask for more than what you need. Figure out what you need, ask for that, get the rest from them later. Number 3, don't make the landing page overly complex. Now remember, it's the difference between long and complex. They're not the same thing. Number 4, don't rely on a block of text to sell your lead magnet. Break it up. No one wants to read a block of text. If they're trying to get a book, they don't want to read a book to get a book. Number 5, don't distract your visitors with competing CTAs. That one should be obvious. Don't put a bunch of buttons and then expect them to only do one of them. Make your landing pages focused, simple, but rich in the relevant details. Answer questions for your audience to convince them of the value of what you're offering. If they're not compelled to click your call to action, well, it's a failure. So make your landing page a success with these best practices in mind. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next lecture.